Are you ready for some serious football gossip? Because we're about to take a deep dive into some of the most fascinating transfers that happened in January and early February.
Oh, yeah.
You might think things quiet down after that main window slammed shut.
Right.
But trust me, there's been plenty of action.
Oh, yeah. Lots of action.
We've got a stack of articles from TNT Sports detailing some of these moves, and I think you're going to be surprised by some of the names on this list.
I think some people might be surprised.
Yeah, so are you ready to kind of unpack some of these deals and figure out what they mean?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay, first up, let's talk about Randal Kolo Muani,
Okay.
a player who went from warming the bench at PSG to absolutely lighting it up in Serie A with Juventus.
Yeah, he's been on fire, hasn't he?
It's almost like a football version of Trading Places.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
That's right.
What's fascinating here is that Kolo Muani's struggles at PSG and his immediate success at Juventus highlight the importance of finding the right fit.
It's like he was just waiting for the right opportunity to explode. And Juventus provided that platform. 2 Serie A games. And he's already surpassed his goal tally from his entire time at PSG.
Yeah, exactly. And from a tactical perspective, Juventus' system seems to suit him much better. They play a more direct style of football,
Yeah.
which allows him to utilize his pace and power to get in behind defenses. At PSG, he was often stuck out wide and didn't have the same freedom to attack.
So it's not just about the talent. It's about how that talent is utilized within a team structure.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder what this means for Juventus' main striker, Dusan Vlahovic. He's got some serious competition now.
Without a doubt. And the fact that this is a loan deal with no permanent option makes it even more interesting. Juventus are essentially getting a test drive with Kolo Muani,
Right.
seeing if he can maintain this form. If he does, they're in a great position, but it also puts some pressure on Vlahovic to step up his game.
It's a win-win for Juventus either way. Okay, now let's shift gears to a Premier League star who's taken a rather unexpected turn in his career, Wilfried Zaha. He's traded the bright lights of London for the sunshine and palm trees of Charlotte, North Carolina, joining Charlotte FC in MLS.
Yeah, this one was really interesting to me because it really speaks to the growing global appeal of MLS.
Yeah.
For Zaha, a player who spent his entire career in Europe, to choose MLS at this stage is a significant statement.
Yeah, it's not like he was struggling in Europe either.
No.
He had a fantastic time at Galatasaray, winning the league and cup double before a slightly less impactful spell at Lyon. So why Charlotte FC? What's the attraction?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors. First, there's the unique loan structure, which gives both Zaha and Charlotte FC some flexibility. It's initially for a year, but there's an option to extend so they can see how things go. But beyond that, I think this move reflects a broader trend of European players, particularly those in the latter stages of their careers, seeing MLS as a viable and attractive option.
So it's not just about the money, but also about the lifestyle, the new challenge, and maybe even the chance to be a pioneer in a league that's on the rise.
Exactly.
It's like a whole new chapter for Zaha. And I, for one, am curious to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Speaking of following leads, let's talk about Neymar. He's gone back to his roots, returning to Santos.
Homecoming.
After a tumultuous and injury-plagued time in Saudi Arabia with Al Hilal,
Yeah.
Neymar's return to Santos has a certain poetic feel to it.
It's almost like a band getting back together for a reunion tour.
Right.
And for Santos, it's a massive boost, both in terms of footballing prowess and marketing appeal. Remember, this is the same Al Hilal who shelled out a whopping $86 million for Neymar just a year and a half ago.
Yeah, and now he's back where he first captured the world's attention.
Right.
The place where he won the Copa Libertadores and became a global superstar before his move to Barcelona.
It's a move that's sure to tug at the heartstrings of Santos fans. The question is, can Neymar recapture that same magic? Can he lead Santos back to glory?
That's the big question, isn't it? He's obviously not the same player he was during his first stint at Santos.
Right.
But there's still a lot of talent there, and who knows, maybe this return to familiar surroundings will reignite that spark. It's definitely a story we'll be following closely.
Okay, get ready for a transfer tale with more twists and turns than a winding mountain road. Alvaro Morata's brief and rather confusing time at AC Milan and his subsequent loan move to Galatasaray.
Yeah, this one really highlights how quickly things can change in football, especially when a new manager comes in with a completely different vision.
AC Milan's new coach, Sergio Conceição, has been like a whirlwind, shaking things up and making his mark.
He didn't waste any time,
Oh,
bringing
wow.
in Kyle Walker to replace their former captain, Davide Calabria, who was sent to Bologna. And then there's João Felix arriving on loan from Chelsea. It's
Wow.
like a whole new team.
And in the midst of all this change, Murata, who only joined AC Milan last summer, suddenly found himself on the outside looking in. It's like he was the new kid in school just getting settled, and then the entire classroom got rearranged.
Exactly, and that's how he ends up on loan at Galatasaray, a club known for its passionate fans and attacking style of play.
It's a move that could benefit both Murata and Galatasaray. He gets a chance to find his form and rediscover his confidence, while Galatasaray gets a proven goal scorer who could make a real impact.
It's a classic example of how one transfer can trigger a domino effect, impacting multiple players and clubs.
Yeah.
It's like a chain reaction that ripples through the footballing world.
Now, for another player seeking a fresh start, let's turn our attention to Ben Chilwell, who's gone from the pressure cooker of Chelsea to the hopefully more welcoming embrace of Crystal Palace on loan.
This is really a tale of two halves. On one hand, you have the big money move from Leicester to Chelsea, where he was seen as a key part of their future. And on the other hand, you have the reality of limited playing time under Enzo Maresca and the feeling that maybe it just wasn't the right fit.
It's like he was stuck in a traffic jam, and now he's finally found an open road at Crystal Palace, a club with a history of nurturing talent and giving players the space to shine.
Exactly. And for Chilwell, this loan move could be a chance to rediscover his form, regain his confidence, and maybe even earn a spot back on the England national team.
It's a chance for him to rewrite his story, to prove that he's still the player that everyone was so excited about just a few years ago. It's almost like a second act in his career, and I'm really intrigued to see how it plays out.
I agree. It's a story of redemption and resilience, and I think a lot of fans will be rooting for him to succeed.
But before we get too caught up in those details, let's take a moment to shine a spotlight on some of the other noteworthy transfers that might have slipped under your radar.
Okay.
You know, it's funny how we often get fixated on the big money, headline-grabbing transfers. But sometimes it's the moves that fly under the radar that end up having the biggest impact. It's like finding a hidden gem in a dusty old shop. You never know what kind of treasure you might uncover.
Absolutely. And TNT Sports actually highlighted a few of those hidden gem transfers that I think are worth discussing.
Okay.
These are the moves that might not make the front pages, but they could have a ripple effect throughout the footballing world.
Okay, I'm all ears. Spill the tea on these under-the-radar transfers.
Well, for starters, did you know that Galeno's move to Al Ahly was actually one of the top 5 most expensive transfers in January?
Wait, really? I have to admit that one completely slipped past me. I know he's a talented winger, but I didn't realize he commanded that kind of fee.
It just goes to show that the balance of power in football is shifting. Clubs outside of Europe's traditional elite are flexing their financial muscle and attracting some serious talent.
It's like a whole new world of opportunity is opening up for players. And speaking of opportunities, TNT Sports also mentioned some exciting young prospects who made moves in January, hoping to take their careers to the next level.
Right. There's Min Hyok Yang, who is currently on loan at QPR in the Championship from Tottenham. He's got bags of potential and could be a real star in the making.
He's definitely one to watch. And then there's Jadon Philogene, who made a $20 million move from Aston Villa to Ipswich Town. That's a hefty price tag for a young player, which tells you just how highly they rate him.
It's almost like clubs are playing a high-stakes game of chess, strategically moving these young players around the board, hoping to unlock their full potential.
It's fascinating to think about the long-term implications of these moves. And then you have cases like Marcus Edwards, who started his career at Tottenham's Youth Academy, moved abroad to Sporting CP, and is now back in England on loan at Burnley.
It's like a footballing odyssey with unexpected twists and turns along the way.
Right. And then there's Lloyd Kelly, who made a surprising switch from Newcastle to Juventus. Talk about a change of scenery.
Yeah, that one raised a few eyebrows.
It makes you wonder what kind of conversations were happening behind closed doors. What made him decide to swap the Premier League for Serie A?
These are the kinds of moves that keep us guessing and make the transfer market so unpredictable. And speaking of unpredictable, let's talk about a player who's making a return to football after a rather extended absence, shall we?
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. The one and only Loris Karius. His return to Schalke after a period without a club has certainly raised a few eyebrows.
I think it's safe to say that his time at Liverpool, particularly that infamous Champions League final, will forever be etched in footballing memory.
It was a night that could have crushed a lesser player, but Karius has shown incredible resilience by coming back to the game.
And now he's got a chance to rewrite his story, to prove his doubters wrong, and to show that he's still capable of performing at a high level. It's a classic redemption arc, and I think a lot of people, even those who aren't Schalke fans, will be rooting for him to succeed.
It's a reminder That in football, just like in life, second chances do exist. And sometimes the most unexpected comebacks can be the most inspiring. But before we delve deeper into Karius's journey, let's take a step back and consider what all these transfers from the blockbuster deals to the hidden gems tell us about the current state of football. It's amazing to think about how much movement there is in the football world even outside of the main transfer window. It really is a never-ending story.
Yeah, it's true. The transfer market never sleeps, and as we've seen from these examples, there's so many layers to it. It's not just about buying and selling players. It's about ambitions, strategies, finances, and even a bit of luck.
It's like a giant puzzle, and we, the fans, are trying to put all the pieces together, figure out why certain moves happen, and predict what the impact will be.
And that's part of what makes it so captivating. The transfer market adds another layer of intrigue to the game, keeping us on the edge of our seats, constantly wondering what's going to happen next.
It's like a real-life soap opera, but with higher stakes and global implications. And the consequences of these transfers can be truly transformative, both for the players and the clubs involved.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this fascinating world of transfers, let's play a little game.
Okay.
Which of these moves do you think will have the biggest impact?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's almost impossible to predict with certainty, but it's fun to speculate. Will Colomouani's goal-scoring spree earn him a permanent spot at Juventus? Will Wilfried Zaha become an MLS icon? Will Neymar recapture his magic back at Santos?
And what about those under-the-radar transfers? Could one of those young prospects explode onto the scene and become the next global superstar?
We'll have to wait and see, but that's the beauty of it all. We get to watch these stories unfold, analyze the decisions, debate the outcomes, and experience the full spectrum of emotions that come with being a football fan.
It's a never-ending cycle of anticipation, speculation, and ultimately the thrill of the beautiful game.
Exactly. So keep your eyes peeled because the footballing world never stands still. Who knows what surprises await us in the next transfer window?
One thing's for sure, we'll be here to break it all down for you.
Until then, keep the conversation going. Let us know your thoughts on these transfers. Which ones surprised you the most? Which ones do you think will have the biggest impact? Share your opinions on social media. We'd love to hear from you. So we were talking about Loris Karius.
Oh yeah, what a story.
I mean, a guy who had just disappeared, really.
He kind of fell off the radar, didn't he?
And now he's back in the Bundesliga.
Well, Bundesliga 2, to be precise.
Right, of course. Bundesliga 2 is Schalke.
It's a far cry from those Champions League nights at Anfield, isn't it?
It is. And you have to admire his determination, to come back after everything he went through.
Especially that Champions League final.
Yeah, I mean, that must have been absolutely devastating for him.
It would have been career-ending for a lot of players.
To bounce back from that and get another chance in a top league, even if it's Bundesliga 2,
Yeah,
it says a lot about his character.
definitely a redemption arc we'll be watching closely.
And, it makes you wonder what's next for him. Can he rediscover his form and maybe even get back to the top level?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Only time will tell, I suppose, but I'm sure a lot of people are rooting for him.
Me included. So there you have it, folks. A whirlwind tour of some of the most intriguing transfers from the January window. From established stars seeking new beginnings to young prospects aiming for the spotlight, the football world never ceases to amaze with its twists and turns.
It's what keeps us coming back for more.
Exactly. And speaking of coming back for more, we'd love to hear from you. What do you think about these transfers? Which one surprised you the most? Which ones do you think will have the biggest impact? Head over to our social media pages and let us know your thoughts. We're always up for a good football debate. And until next time, keep your eyes on the transfer market, because as we've learned, you never know what's going to happen next.